Okay, Chapter 5, Sunday morning. The next morning, Mario came back to the newsstand with his father. Usually he slept late on Sunday, but today he was up before either of his parents and kept urging Papa Bellini to hurry. They lifted off the cover and Mario dashed inside. He held up the matchbox and looked in. There was Chester lying on the Kleenex. The cricket wasn't sleeping, though. He had been waiting for Mario. He chirped once. Papa smiled when he heard the chirp. "Ah, he must like it here. He didn't run away in the night." "I knew he wouldn't," said Mario. For breakfast, Mario had brought a crust of bread, a lump of sugar, and a cold Brussels sprout. He wasn't quite sure what crickets liked, so he decided to try him out on everything. Chester jumped over Mario's little finger and into the palm of his hand where the food was. Back in the meadow, his usual diet was leaves and grass, and every now and then a piece of tender bark. But here in New York, he was eating bread and candy and liverwurst and finding them very tasty at last. When Chester had had as much as he wanted, Mario wrapped up what was left into a piece of wax paper and put it inside the cash register. And then he slipped the cricket back inside the matchbox and took him over to one of the lunch counters. "Look," said the counterman, "this is my new pet. He is a cricket." The counterman's name was Mickey. He had red curly hair. "Well, that's a fine cricket," he said, peering at Chester. "May I have a glass of water, please?" asked Mario. Mickey said, "Well, sure," and he gave him the glass. Mario held Chester by the hind legs and lowered him carefully until his head was just above the water. Chester dunked his head in and had a big drink, and then he pulled it out and took a breath and went in for another. "Well, why don't you let him stand on the rim?" said Mickey. He was very interested in watching Chester, since he had never seen a cricket drinking from a glass before. Mario set his pet on the edge of the glass and gently drew his hand away. Chester bent down to reach the water, but the glass was too slippery and he toppled in. Mario hauled him out and dried him off with a paper napkin. But Chester didn't mind the dunking. He had fallen into the brook a couple of times back in Connecticut, and he knew it would take him a while to get used to city life, like drinking out of a glass. "Oh, how would the cricket like a soda?" asked Mickey. "Oh, very much, I think," said Mario. "Well, what flavor?" Mario thought a minute. "Strawberry, I guess," he answered. That happened to be his own favorite. So Mickey took a tablespoon and put a drop of strawberry syrup into it, and then he added a drop of cream, a squirt of water, soda water, and a dip of ice cream, but about as big as your fingernail. That is how you make a cricket's strawberry soda. He also made one for Mario, a little larger than Chester's, but not too big because it was free. When the soda was gone, Mickey took a paper cup and wrote "Cricket" on it. "Ha! This is his own cup," he said to Mario. "You can come over and get fresh water any time." "Thanks, Mickey," said Mario, and he put Chester back into the matchbox. "I've got to go to get him a house now." "Bring him back soon. I'll make him a sundae, too," said Mickey. At the newsstand, Papa Bellini was talking to Mr. Smedley. Mr. Smedley is the best customer the Bellinis had. He was a music teacher who came to buy Musical America at 10:30 in the morning on the last Sunday of every month. On his way home from church, no matter what the weather was like, he always carried a long, neatly rolled umbrella. As usual, Papa and Mr. Smedley had been talking about opera. More than anything else, the Bellinis family liked Italian opera. So here's Mickey, Mario, and Chester. Every Saturday during the winter, when the opera was broadcast, they would sit clustered around the radio in the newsstand, straining to hear the music above the din of the subway station. "Oh, good morning, Mr. Smedley. Guess what I have?" Mr. Smedley couldn't guess. "Oh, it's a cricket," said Mario, and he held Chester up for the music teacher to see. "Oh, how delightful! What an enchanting little creature!" "Do you want to hold him?" Mr. Smedley shrank back. "Oh, I don't think so," he said. "I was stung by a bee when I was 8 years old, and since then I've been a little timid of insects." "Oh, he won't sting you," said Mario, and he tipped the matchbox up, and Chester fell out into Mr. Smedley's hand, and it made the music teacher shiver to feel him. "I've heard him chirping last night. Do you think he'd chirp for me?" "Well, maybe." He put Chester on the counter and said, "Chirp, please." Then, so Chester couldn't misunderstand, he made a chirping noise himself. It didn't sound much like a cricket, but Chester got the idea. He uncrossed his wings and made the real chirp. "Papa," and Mr. Smedley exclaimed with delight. "That was a perfect middle C," said Mr. Smedley, and he raised his hand like an orchestra conductor, and when he lowered it, Chester chirped on the downbeat. "Do you want to give him music lessons, Mr. Smedley?" asked Mario. "What could I teach him?" said Mr. Smedley. "He's already been taught by the greatest teacher of all, Mario, Nature herself. She gave him wings to rub together and the instinct to make such lovely sounds. I could add nothing to that genius of this little black orifice." "Oh, what is an orifice, Mr. Smedley?" asked Mario. "Well, an orifice was the greatest musician who ever lived," said the music teacher. "Long ago he played on an harp, and he played it so beautifully that not only human beings, but animals, and even the rocks and the trees and the waterfalls stopped their work to listen to him. The lion left off chasing the deer. The rivers paused in their courses, and the wind held its breath. The whole world was silent." Mario didn't know what to say. He liked that picture of everyone keeping quiet to listen. "That must have been awfully good playing," he said finally. Mr. Smedley smiled. "Well, it was," he said. "Perhaps some day your cricket will play as well. I prophesy great things for a creature of such ability, Mario." "Ah, you hear?" said Papa Bellany. "It could be famous, maybe." Mario heard all right, and he remembered what Mr. Smedley had said later on that summer. But right now, he had other things on his mind. "Papa, can I go down to Chinatown to get my cricket a house?" he asked. "A house? Oh, what a kind of a house?" "Well, Jimmy Lebitsky said that the Chinese like crickets very much and that they build special cages for them." "Ah, well, it's a Sunday. There won't be any stores open." "Well, there may be one or two. It's Chinatown, and besides, I could see where to go later on." "Well, all right, Mario, But Mario wasn't waiting for any buts. He scooped Chester into the matchbox, shouted goodbye to Mr. Smedley over his shoulder, and headed for the stairway leading to the downtown subway trains. Papa and Mr. Smedley watched him go, and then Papa turned to the music teacher with a happy, hopeless expression on his face, shrugged his shoulders, and the two of them began talking about opera again. That's chapter 5, guys.